The rain had stopped only minutes ago, but the mountain air was still thick with mist. Tyler could taste the damp stone and smell the earth sliding somewhere down the valley. He walked ahead slowly, one hand on the rope tied around Mala's neck, not to control her, but to guide her. The elephant's ears flapped nervously, brushing against the rock wall. The tunnel stood a few steps away, a black hole carved into the cliff, barely wide enough for a truck. "Keep her steady," called Carter through the radio. His voice cracked under static. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before the next front hits." Tyler didn't answer. He knew that if Mala sensed his fear, she'd stop. Her front foot scraped the dirt, hesitation rippling through her massive body. The ground trembled slightly as a loose rock tumbled from the ledge above and hit the path near her leg. She froze. The engineer, Luis, squinted toward the tunnel mouth. "That roof won't hold a heavy step for long," he muttered. "I wouldn't drive a jeep through there, let alone an elephant." Tyler took a breath and stepped closer to Mala. "It's okay, girl. Just a little more." His voice was low, steady, the same tone he'd used back in the village when he first met her. She shifted her weight, but her gaze darted toward the blackness of the tunnel. Her breathing grew rough and fast. Tyler felt the tension travel up the rope like an electric current. The wind picked up, whispering through the canyon. A small rumble echoed deep inside the tunnel. It could have been thunder or something moving underground. Carter's voice came again, sharper this time. "Tyler, if that storm hits before you're through, we'll lose the whole pass. Get her moving or pull back." "Pull back." The words burned in his mind. He looked up the slope. No space to turn her around, no time to climb. Behind them, the narrow trail twisted along the cliff's edge, half of it already gone to erosion. If she panicked there, they'd both go over. He turned back to her, meeting her dark, liquid eyes. They weren't wild now, just confused, heavy with pain. Her flank was still marked where the chain had bitten into her skin a week ago. He remembered her first roar of fear when he'd cut that chain. He'd promised her then she'd make it out alive. "Easy, Mala. You trust me, right?" His palm rested against the side of her head. The skin was warm and rough, like dry bark. "We've been through worse." The elephant shifted again, testing the path under her feet. Her ears twitched toward his voice. Her trunk lifted slightly, brushing his shoulder. He felt her breath against his neck, hot, trembling, uncertain. Luis shouted from the back, "Rockfall! Above you!" Tyler turned just in time to see a cluster of stones tumble from the ridge. One struck near his boot, spraying dirt. Mala jerked backward, nearly pulling him off his feet. He gripped the rope tighter, planting himself between her and the cliff. "Hold!" He yelled, more to himself than anyone else. His voice echoed down the mountain. For a second, everything stopped. The rain, the wind, even Mala's movement. Tyler could hear only her breathing, heavy and uneven, and the faint hum of thunder building in the distance. He stepped forward until his chest touched her shoulder. "Listen to me," he whispered, his voice trembling now. "I gave you my word once. You're going to live. I swear it." Her eyes met his again, and for a heartbeat, she seemed to understand. The rope slackened. Tyler looked ahead at the dark tunnel, its entrance no bigger than a doorway against the vast mountain. He knew it was madness, but it was the only way left. And as he raised his hand, signaling her forward, the story pulled backward in time, to the moment, 1 week ago, when the first call for help had come. The hum of the city felt strange after weeks in the field. Tyler leaned back in his chair, half asleep, the scent of disinfectant and wet leather still clinging to his clothes. The office of the Wildlife Rescue Foundation buzzed with quiet voices and the sound of a dripping coffee machine. On his desk sat a ticket for a long-delayed trip home, 7 days of rest he'd promised himself for months. He was about to shut his laptop when the landline rang. Few people still used it, which made him pause before answering. "Tyler Reynolds," he said, rubbing his temples. The voice on the other end carried static and the accent of the Highlands. "This is Arjun, Forest Ranger, District 3. I was told to reach you about a stranded elephant." Tyler sat upright. "Where?" "In the North Mountains. The old logging road collapsed after the rains. The animal's hurt and blocking the only route into our village. Locals can't move her, and the owner fled. She's been there 2 days without food." He opened a map on his screen. The coordinates blinked red, barely reachable by vehicle. "Is she wild or domesticated?" She was used for carrying timber. Still chained when we found her. She's bleeding from her hind leg. We tried cutting the chain, but she panicked. Tyler exhaled. Send me photos and location markers. I'll call you back. Within minutes, the pictures arrived. A massive female elephant leaning against a fallen tree, skin cracked with mud and blood, her eyes half closed. Around her, a crowd of villagers stood helpless in the rain. The sight pulled at something deep inside him. He walked to Carter's office. Carter was hunched over budget sheets, glasses slipping down his nose. We're supposed to start the marine rescue project next week, he said without looking up. Don't tell me there's another mountain call. There's an injured elephant up north. No access except the old road. If we don't get her out soon, she'll die. Carter sighed. You realize the costs? Fuel, permits, equipment. That route's been unstable for years. We'd need engineers, medics, transport. Tyler interrupted. She's chained and starving. If we wait, she'll collapse, and then they'll just shoot her. Carter finally met his eyes. You're not her savior, Tyler. Sometimes we can't fix everything. Maybe, but I can fix this one. He grabbed his jacket and walked out before Carter could reply. By dusk, Tyler's truck rumbled along the soaked mountain roads, joined by 2 volunteers and Arjun's team waiting ahead. The higher they climbed, the thicker the fog grew. Fallen trees forced them to move slowly, sometimes clearing debris by hand. When they reached the village, lanterns flickered between wooden huts, and children watched them from doorways with silent curiosity. Arjun approached, rain dripping from his hat. She's just past that ridge, he said. Haven't moved an inch all day. They hiked the last stretch on foot. The road had broken away into a jagged ledge overlooking a ravine. There, in the dim light, stood the elephant. Chains cut into her swollen ankle, her flank marked with old scars. Every breath came out like a groan. The former owner stood nearby, avoiding eye contact. When Tyler stepped closer, the man hissed something in his native language and backed off. The elephant raised her trunk defensively, but didn't strike. Her eyes followed Tyler, uncertain but not wild. Easy, he murmured. No one's going to hurt you. He crouched, moving slowly until she could smell his hand. Her trunk brushed his sleeve, and he felt a tremor of fear and exhaustion beneath the touch. Arjun whispered, She hasn't let anyone near her. Not even me. She's been betrayed too many times, Tyler said softly. He motioned for Arjun to hold the torch lower. Let's get that chain off. It took half an hour of gentle coaxing and sawing before the last link snapped. The elephant didn't move, just exhaled a deep, weary sigh. Tyler stepped back, letting her see his face in the light. For the first time, she didn't retreat. Later that night, the rescue team gathered in a makeshift shelter. Rain beat against the tin roof. Luis, the engineer, spread a map across a table lit by a single lamp. There's only one way to get her out, he said, tracing a finger along a narrow line cutting through the peaks. An old mining tunnel, abandoned 15 years ago. It leads to the southern valley where transport trucks can reach. Carter's voice came over the radio from headquarters. A tunnel? You've got to be kidding me. That thing's not safe for people, let alone an elephant. Luis shrugged. Safe or not, it's our only route. Tyler studied the dark curve on the map. The plan looked insane even on paper. But as thunder rolled outside and he heard the distant cry of the injured elephant, he knew there would be no other chance. He looked up. Then that's where we'll take her. Morning fog clung to the cliffs when Tyler, Luis, and Arjun reached the tunnel entrance. In daylight, it looked even worse than it had on the map. The opening sagged slightly, like the mouth of something tired and ancient. Rusted beams poked out from the stone, and water dripped steadily from cracks in the ceiling. Luis flicked on his headlamp. The narrow cone of light revealed warped rail tracks and rotted planks disappearing into the dark. This was never meant for anything heavier than a small cart, he said. And even that was a bad idea. Tyler stepped inside a few meters, feeling the temperature drop. The air smelled of wet iron and mold. Above him, the support beams groaned when he brushed against one. How long do you think it will hold? He asked. Luis gave a humorless laugh. If it were up to me, I would seal this whole thing and put up a warning sign. It is a miracle it has not already collapsed. He tapped a beam with a metal rod. Dust rained down. There are sections where the roof is lower than an average person. An elephant will not fit without scraping both sides. Arjun shivered. Is there truly no other route? Luis shook his head. Not one we can clear in time. The southern ridge is gone. The new road is months from being finished. This tunnel is our only straight line out of here. Tyler listened, jaw tight. In his pocket, the radio crackled. Carter's voice came through, thin but urgent. I just got off a call with the regional office. They want that road open within 3 days. If you cannot move the elephant by then, contractors will come in with heavy equipment. Tyler stepped back into the light outside. What does that mean for her? There was a brief pause. You know what it means, Carter replied. They will sedate her and remove the body so they can clear the debris. I pushed for more time, but they are already angry this is causing delays. Arjun clenched his fists. She is not debris. She is alive. I know that, Carter said. His voice softened. But these are people who only see numbers and blocked routes. I cannot fight them alone. If we commit to this tunnel idea and something goes wrong, the blame will land on all of us. On the foundation, too. Tyler glanced back at the dark passage. So your plan is to stand aside and watch them kill her? This is not about what I want, Carter answered. It is about what is possible. Moving an elephant through a damaged mine shaft is an impossible mission. You have to accept that. Impossible compared to what? Tyler's voice rose despite himself. Leaving her to starve on that ledge? Letting them put a bullet in her head because it is cheaper? That is the future you are asking me to accept. Silence filled the channel for a moment. Then Carter said, resigned, if you insist on trying this, you had better come back alive. And you had better make sure no one else dies in there. I will not sign off on anything that looks like a suicide mission. Then do not sign it, Tyler said quietly. I will take responsibility. He clicked off the radio before Carter could respond. They spent the afternoon with Mala. She stood in a patch of mud beside the broken road, the ravine yawning just behind her. Volunteers had erected a canvas shelter overhead to protect her from the constant drizzle. Buckets of water and baskets of fruit sat nearby, donated by villagers who had little to spare. Tyler cleaned the wound on her leg again, speaking softly while he worked. You know, if you were a little smaller, this would be much easier, he joked. Arjun chuckled. She used to haul logs twice her size. Now she acts like a stubborn child when we ask her to move a step. Mala's ear flicked at Arjun's voice. When Tyler reached up and scratched the rough skin just behind that ear, she sighed and leaned into the touch, almost knocking him off balance. They both laughed. See that? Tyler said. Right there. She calms down when you press here and keep your voice low. Same rhythm as a lullaby. He spent hours testing triggers and responses. Sudden shouts made her stiffen. Slow speech and steady contact relaxed her. The sound of metal tools upset her. The rustle of leaves in Arjun's folk songs seemed to soothe her. Tyler memorized every sign, every twitch of her trunk. Meanwhile, Luis walked back and forth between the tunnel and the camp, taking measurements, muttering to himself. By late afternoon, he spread a new sketch on the hood of the truck. The villagers gathered around, their faces lined with worry. We clear the first 30 meters of loose rock, Luis explained. Then we install temporary supports from these metal beams the villagers found in the old warehouse. Portable lamps every 10 meters. We mark the narrowest points with paint, so Tyler knows where to slow her down. One of the older men shook his head. If the tunnel collapses with the animal inside, outsiders will blame our village. Tourists will stop coming. They will say we are cruel. A younger woman crossed her arms. And if we let them shoot her, what will they say then? Voices rose, some angry, some afraid. The village chief, a thin man with tired eyes, finally spoke. We depend on that road. Without it, we cannot sell crops or bring medicine. But if we allow them to kill the elephant in front of our children, we will lose more than trade. He turned to Tyler. Can you promise this plan will work? Tyler looked at the map, then at Mala standing under the canvas, gently swinging her trunk. I cannot promise, he said honestly. But I can promise that if we do nothing, she will die here. At least this way we give her a real chance. The chief studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. Then we help you. The rest of the day became a blur of movement. Men carried beams up the slope. Women brought food for the workers. Children filled sacks with small stones to reinforce the path. Luis organized teams to clear debris inside the tunnel, shouting instructions over the noise of hammers and shovels. As the sky darkened, a cold wind blew down from the peaks. Tyler and Arjun led Mala a few steps closer to the start of the trail, letting her see the tunnel from a distance, speaking to her in that same quiet rhythm. She hesitated but did not bolt. Just after sunset, Carter's voice returned on the radio. Weather Service updated the forecast, he said. A major storm front will hit your area in roughly 24 hours. They are warning of new landslides. Tyler met Arjun's eyes. Louise stopped working and listened. The camp fell silent. Carter continued. Headquarters has agreed to one attempt at this evacuation. One try, at first light tomorrow. If you are not through the tunnel by midday, we call it off and hand things over to the contractors. That is the deal. Tyler looked toward the dark line of the tunnel, lit only by a few scattered lamps. Workers still moved like shadows at its mouth. Mala shifted her weight beside him, trunk brushing his arm. Then we make that one try count, he said. The wind answered with a low, distant rumble, as if the mountains themselves were listening. Dawn came cold and gray, the mountains veiled in a curtain of fog. Tyler zipped his jacket, feeling the chill cut through the thin fabric. Down the slope, the rescue camp was already awake. Voices, clattering metal, the smell of diesel and damp earth. Louise shouted orders as villagers adjusted the ropes along the ledge, anchoring them to iron spikes driven into the rock. The tunnel mouth loomed ahead, dark and silent, a wound in the mountain. Mala stood beside the path, massive and restless. Her breath puffed out in small clouds, her skin glistening with dew. Tyler rested his hand against her flank, feeling the slow rise and fall of her ribs. It's just a walk, he said softly. One long walk, and then you'll be free. Arjun checked the radios. Team 1 ready at the entrance. Team 2 behind the ridge. Backup medics halfway through. Luis walked past them, helmet light bobbing. We'll keep lamps every 10 meters. If any go out, don't stop to fix them. Just keep her moving. Tyler nodded. Copy that. He glanced at Mala again. You ready, girl? She swayed her trunk, brushing his arm as if in answer. The path to the tunnel was narrow, hugging the cliff's edge. Ropes lined the side where the ground fell away into mist. Tyler led the way, his boots sinking into the soft mud. Each step echoed faintly off the stone walls. From below came the faint rumble of distant thunder. Clouds rolled in faster than expected. Storms ahead of schedule, Luis warned through the radio. We need to move. They reached the entrance. The first 10 meters of the tunnel were damp but open, the ceiling high enough for Mala to move slowly, her back brushing droplets of condensation from the rocks. Lamps cast pale circles of light ahead. Every sound, the scrape of her feet, the clank of chains they used to guide her, seemed to fill the air. Doing good, Tyler said. Keep her steady. But then, around the first bend, the tunnel narrowed. The walls pinched closer, forcing Mala to tilt slightly to one side. Her breathing quickened, trunk waving nervously. Loose gravel crunched under her weight. Tyler could hear her heart pounding through the vibrations in the ground. Arjun's voice came behind him. Easy, girl, easy. They took another step. Then another. The tunnel trembled. A pebble rolled from the ceiling and hit Tyler's shoulder. He looked up. Hairline cracks spidered across the rock. Hold position, Luis said through the radio, his voice tight. Top sensors show slight movement. We might have unstable sections ahead. Before Tyler could reply, a chunk of stone the size of a helmet crashed beside them. Mala let out a deep, terrified roar. She lurched sideways, scraping the wall. Her hind legs twisted, stuck between two jagged rocks. Back! Everyone back! Luis shouted. Get clear. But Tyler didn't move. No. Stay calm, he yelled over the noise. He ran to Mala's side, one hand pressed to her neck. You're okay? You're okay. Her body shook violently, trunk thrashing in panic. Carter's voice blasted from the radio. Tyler, abort the mission. Get out now. Do you hear me? Mute the comms. Tyler snapped. Arjun hesitated, then switched the channel off. The tunnel fell into a strange silence. Only Mala's ragged breathing and the faint groan of shifting rock. Tyler moved closer, touching her ear the way he had learned back in the village. Remember, Mala, he whispered. Like before. Slow, just breathe. He pressed his forehead against her skin. We've done harder things than this. Arjun crouched near her legs. She's wedged against the right wall. If she moves a few inches back, she might free herself. All right, Tyler said quietly. On my count. 1, 2. He began to hum, a low rhythmic tone, the same pattern that had calmed her days ago. She froze, listening. He kept going, voice steady despite the fear crawling through him. Arjun waved his torch slowly, creating a dim flicker that seemed to guide her gaze. Mala's muscles shifted under Tyler's hand. She eased backward a few inches, stones grinding beneath her feet. Dust rained down, choking the air. Good, Tyler whispered. Now forward, just a bit. That's it. She pushed forward again, her skin scraping the rock, leaving streaks of gray dust along her side. The tunnel shuddered. Louise shouted from outside, voice faint but urgent. Cracks on the outer ridge. If she doesn't move now, we'll lose the entrance. Carter's voice returned, distorted by static. Tyler, the slope's giving way. If you're not out in 60 seconds, I'm pulling everyone. Tyler ignored him. Come on, Mala. One more step. His hands trembled on her shoulder. You can do this. The elephant hesitated, trunk curling toward his chest. Then, with a deep rumble that vibrated through the ground, she shifted forward, her whole body pushing through the narrow gap. The sound of grinding stone filled the tunnel, deafening. Tyler shielded his face as dust exploded around them. Then, silence. Mala's front legs broke free, her body sliding forward into the next chamber. For a second, Tyler thought they'd made it. But then a new crack split the ceiling. Pebbles began to fall faster, like rain. Tyler, Arjun shouted. He looked up. The air vibrated, the mountain groaning above them. He had just enough time to grab the rope, yell for Arjun to move, and pull Mala's head toward the light ahead. In that moment, the tunnel roared, half thunder, half collapsing stone. Tyler felt the ground lurch beneath him. Ahead, he saw only darkness, and behind them, a distant glow of daylight and the echo of shouting voices. It was the sound of a decision, forward or buried forever. The valley shimmered under the morning sun, green after a week of rain. Tyler leaned on the fence of the new sanctuary, watching Mala graze by the stream, free, unchained, her scars fading. A truck full of children rattled down the road, laughter echoing through the mountains. When they saw the elephant, they gasped in awe. Mala lifted her trunk and reached toward them, curious and calm. None of them were afraid. Arjun joined Tyler with 2 cups of tea. Hard to believe she's the same elephant, he said. Tyler smiled. Hard to believe we all made it. A gust of wind carried the scent of wet earth. Beyond the field, workers were finishing the new road that curved around the mountain where the tunnel once stood. The thought brought flashes of that night. The roar of falling rock, the suffocating dust, Mala's desperate push forward. He still remembered the silence when she broke free, the air trembling as the tunnel collapsed behind them. Carter arrived later, his expression softer than usual. You were right not to leave her, he admitted. I was ready to call it off. If I had, Tyler said, she'd still be buried in there. They stood watching as villagers approached the fence. The same man who had once opposed the rescue brought a basket of fruit and placed it quietly near Mala. She took it gently, her trunk brushing his sleeve. The gesture said more than words. As the sun set, Tyler climbed the hill above the enclosure. Below, the sealed tunnel lay hidden beneath fresh earth, a scar slowly healing. Mala lifted her trunk toward the evening sky, letting out a deep, peaceful call that echoed through the valley. Tyler closed his eyes. Maybe impossible missions aren't about strength or luck. They're about not turning back when everyone else already has.